Everyone, I hope you're all well and keeping safe, remembering that you're not alone and you can just reach out if there's anything that you need. We're all going through this together at the same time, so just reach out if we can help in any way. In my last talk I spoke about how we need to stay focused on God when everything around us is changing so much and changing so quickly. We need to stay focused on the one who doesn't change. And I wanted to take that further by looking at some specific things about God that we can be certain of. So in this talk I want to talk about our certainty that God is good. And it's hard to grasp that sometimes when we look around us and we can see this illness and we can sometimes see selfishness. It can be hard to remember that God is truly good. So I wanted to start by reading a bit of Psalm 27, where David said, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it's my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I'll be confident. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart. Wait for the Lord." When you read it, you can see that David doesn't believe in the goodness of God because life has been plain sailing for him. When the wicked advance against me to devour me, the war break out against me. They aren't light words that reassure us that all will be well. David faced real and frightening challenges. When you read that, you can imagine this army bearing down on him, probably seeming impassable. And yet he stands confident that he will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. How can he speak with such certainty and manage to say that his heart will not fear? What would David draw on to keep his eyes on God and not on the army and the enemies around him? David has quite a history. He was a shepherd, the youngest of his family, chosen to be a king. He fought and won against Goliath, and he won several other battles as well. I imagine him looking back on those experiences and knowing that he can rely on God. And right now, we face our own enemy, one that's trying to divide us and break us. And as this enemy presses ever deeper into our lives, how can we still believe that we will see the goodness of God in the land of the living? How can we still have confidence and stand firm? I think one way we can do it is the way it's always been done. Let's tell stories. In the Bible, we read about real people's stories, real accounts of real events that built up and supported generation after generation to believe in a good God. And sharing our experiences will do even more than remind us of God's goodness. It will also bring us closer together. Earlier in the year, I shared part of my journey with the church. It was my story of how God had come to me when I needed him. I didn't know whether I should share it, whether there'd be any value in sharing it, but I found that other people found a message for them in it as well and took strength from it. I remember looking around and seeing people nodding at me, maybe to say that they had felt the same way before, or maybe just to encourage me. But either way, I felt closer to you, the people of BCC, and I hope you felt closer to me as well. And right now, we need as many ways as possible to stay connected with each other. So let's tell our own stories. When we remind ourselves of the good things God has done, the times where we have seen his goodness, we can see our problems differently. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it says, "We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." These problems will pass away. We will move forward. However hard the days and the weeks are that lie ahead of us, this is temporary. And what will never change is that God is good. He loves us. He's always on our side. Psalm 46 says that God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Or as Matt Redman said, "If my God is with me, whom then shall I fear?" So in this time of uncertainty and fear, what's your story? What will you draw on to remind yourself that God is good? I've heard some of your stories about the good God who's been there for you, and they've encouraged me. Please share them. I've heard stories about how some of you came to be in Brixham, and they're amazing. You know, God, the creator of heaven and earth, looked at you and said, "I'm going to need this one in Brixham." That's awesome. God cares so much for me that he met me where I was, so I could keep trusting in him. Every story is so important. Let's get lots of them. Send them to me, John, Paul, Vez. Put them in the comments below. Put them on Facebook. It will build you up when you retell it, and I know it will build the rest of us up to read it. And last time I gave you a song to listen to, so I'll do the same again this time. Have a listen to Goodness of God by Bethel, and let it remind you what God's done for you. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.